Here I am now on dbt Cloud, and I've merged those recent changes with our source freshness. So now it's in the main branch, and I'm looking at it on dbt Cloud. If you remember from the original dbt Cloud section, we talked about data sources here, but we kind of breezed through it. And this is where we're going to be able to monitor our data sources that use source freshness. And this is where it's all going to come together. Now, to make this possible, what we need to do are two different things. One, we need to add that source freshness step to a job and then indicate that in a setting so that it all ties together with the data sources here. So let's go through that. So first things first, let's go to our daily production run. And this is a common place to do it because it will be something that's running consistently. You know, maybe it's once a day, maybe it's every hour, whatever that is would be a good place to add this step. I'm going to go to settings and edit. Now within this job, if we come down here, there's an option here that says run source freshness. And what this will do is it's going to enable it and it's going to allow you to select it in the setting. But the difference here is it's not going to break subsequent steps. So that's up to you if that's okay or not. So you can do this, select it and move forward. But most of the time you're going to want to be notified and have this fail if this check fails as well, because you don't want to run on stale data. So instead, what you can do is add a command. So we can write dbt source freshness and move this to the first step. That way it'll run this check first. If this fails, it'll fail the job. You'll get notified depending on your notifications and it won't continue to build. Again, otherwise, if you do this, it's going to effectively do the same thing, but not fail. But I want this here. So I'm going to save like this. And now we can see we have these two options here. So now that we have this, the next step is to indicate the freshness job. And what we'll do is go to settings, account settings, click on your project. And similar to the documentation, we can indicate these source freshness artifacts. And what this is going to do really behind the scenes is look at that sources.json file that we saw was created in the last video. And what I did miss here is we do have to actually indicate this here. So I need to go back and specifically set that, even though we will already have it. But we're also covering ourselves here to make sure that it does fail in the case that the freshness failed. Let's go back to account settings, to the project. Now we can edit this and select that. That job is not only keeping our documentation updated, but it's going to also consistently check our sources. So let's say save. Now let's go to data sources, refresh here. Let's see. Unknown error. This might be because it's caught in an in-between. We have that selected, but we haven't run the job since changing this. So I'm going to go through here and trigger this job. Now we would expect it to pass because we have that filter. And here we can see right away, it's doing a dbt source snapshot freshness. And this command here is the equivalent nowadays to dbt source freshness. Don't worry too much about the snapshot. So I'm going to pause this video and let this complete, and then we'll pick it back up when it's done. All right, so the job passed. And if we go to dbt source freshness here, we can see it did pass. It ran that step. We have two of these because one is the one we wrote in, and this is from that selection that we made. But here we can see now we have data sources and view sources. If we click this here, it's going to take us to this data sources section. And here we have this nice interface that shows us how our sources are doing. And if we click this here, we can see the last loaded is 6 hours ago, 6 hours out of date, which is what we inserted manually. The last snapshot was here. Here's the status. You can see if you hover what the conditioned are. We're not tracking this and we're not tracking any of our other sources, but it does recognize everything that we've marked as a source. So that's what I'm saying. You don't need to do all of them. Maybe pick and choose a few from each, but this is what it looks like. And now we have this, we can monitor it. And behind the scenes, you understand how this is working because we saw it on the code level as well. So this is how it all works. It's all going to keep updated now with that connected to the job. And you can be confident that your data sources are up to date. And if they're not, that you'll be notified.